Everyone. I'm excited to be speaking today with our principal flute player, Kathy Boyd, and Kathy's going to be performing the Mozart Flute Concerto #1 in G major on our upcoming concert at the end of this month. And Kathy, it's great to have you here. Where are you speaking to us from today, and how are you doing?
Hi, thank you. It's great to be here. I'm talking to you from my home in Millis, Massachusetts. It's a little ways outside of Boston and
Mhm.
kind of right near the woods, kind of a country setting. So it's
Nice.
a nice place to be.
Yeah, I can imagine it's nice and peaceful. And how have you been handling this whole pandemic? What are your days look like?
I've had a lot of free time. I mean, the main thing, all of the playing work totally stopped since our last concert on March 8th.
Hmm.
But I've thrown myself fully into my teaching.
Hmm.
Um, but all of my schools, it has to be remote. I'm not allowed to be in the same room with my students. I'm not allowed to take out my flute in any of the rooms at the colleges where I teach. I think I've gotten pretty good about teaching on
Sure.
Zoom and to try to explain things and get in and try to give as many good images and examples. So
Yeah,
I think
that's
I'm dealing with it well, but it's sort of
yeah.
like having your arms and your mouth cut off from you.
Oh, God.
Definitely part of what I've loved to do during this downtime is to get outside and to
Mhm.
go in nature. And
Mhm.
we have two wonderful dogs,
Oh,
and
nice.
my boyfriend and I, we like to get them out for good walks in the
Yeah,
woods.
yeah.
And also, we have a cabin, very rustic is a
Ooh.
nice word for it. It's a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
roughing it kind of cabin out
Yes.
in Western Mass. And especially over the summertime and the warm months,
Mhm.
we were there more than we ever would have been able to be there.
Wow.
And especially most of that time, there was no cell service, no Wi-Fi,
Yeah,
no nothing,
so peaceful.
just roughing it in the
Yes.
elements. There's an outhouse. Yay!
I
That outhouse, I
love
was
it.
so happy when that got made. That was
Yes, yeah, I bet.
wonderful. And also to try to like do some painting and things to make it just to totally make it feel fresh. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wish I could show you a before and an after
Uh-huh.
picture because it's definitely like a calypso cabin now. I mean, those colors just
Oh, wow.
really, it's wonderful.
So let's dive into your musical background. How were
Mhm.
you introduced to music, and was there a sort of turning point, maybe, where you decided you wanted to become a musician, a professional musician?
Yeah, my very first musical memories were when I was a really little kid, like 3, 4, 5 years old. My mom was a beautiful singer in the church choir, and so I'd go to church with her and sit up on the floor up there while they were singing in the choir. And
Mm.
also after church, they would stay on and rehearse. And I remember just like sitting there eating my peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, like almost crying. It's
Aw.
just I was in the middle of all this beautiful sound and stuff. So those were my
Mhm.
first memories.
Yeah.
And then also when I was about 9 or 10, we got a stereo.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and that was really cool. And my dad started to get into opera,
Okay.
especially like Puccini
Oh,
and late
favorite.
Verdi.
It's my favorite again.
So I grew up with all the highlight opera arias
Mhm.
with wonderful singers. It was great.
I can
It
imagine.
would
Yes.
fill our living room. Sometimes it would fill into the neighborhood. Our best friends a couple doors down the street, Mr. Root loved his Beethoven symphonies. So he would do his Beethoven symphonies really loud. My dad would do his opera really loud. They were like the dueling banjos.
Oh, no.
It was great.
Great music.
They took over the neighborhood.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
I remember I was always sort of taken by the flute and silvery and shiny. I love the sound of it, and also just
Right.
kind of the duet like that. Like
Yeah.
clarinet never
Never
appealed to me.
really spoke to you.
Sorry, clarinet, but and I remember um, was it the person after me in line? I said I wanted a flute, and the band director said, "You look like a flute player." But the person after me, he said, "Oh, we just run out of flutes. How about the clarinet?" And I was thinking about that, like, if I was that person, I think I still would have said to my parents, "I want to play the flute."
Mhm,
You know,
mhm,
and
right,
there's a music store that we could have rented something from. So it
right,
just
right.
shows though how
That's
random
oh, absolutely.
people can come to their instruments.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
was very lucky that my teacher, my main teacher, all through from sixth grade up through graduating from high school, moved to Binghamton, and
Okay.
she had studied with Marcel Moïse for many
Mhm.
years, and also Bernie Goldberg down in Pittsburgh, and was a wonderful teacher, player, and
That's
very
great.
tough, very
Yeah,
difficult.
yeah.
Like, she wouldn't let you play music that was harder than where you should. She made sure you got
Sure,
everything right about it, and very
sure.
expressive. She was wonderful.
That's
It's like the
perfect.
kind of standards that she gave her students was a really good thing to take with them. And I
Yes.
remember in eighth grade, that was my first time getting to be in orchestra, and I was
Mhm.
principal flute in the all county orchestra,
Nice,
and
nice.
just sitting, and there's all these strings around me, and we were playing this Handel piece, maybe Wherever You Walk, or one of
Uh-huh.
those beautiful things where they're doing that, and then I joined them, and I'm just floating
Oh,
on top of the
wow.
strings, and I
Oh,
just
wow.
loved it. I just
Yes.
like, I love this.
Yeah.
There was the training youth orchestra, and then once I was in ninth grade, I made it into the high school youth orchestra, and those were wonderful. Again,
Mhm.
wonderful conductors and people that had very tough standards, and was many wonderful players to play with, and we did great concerts. We'd sometimes come to Boston and play in the All Eastern
Yeah, yeah,
Conference and
yeah.
things. In fact, we played just before the Boston Youth Symphony. Then it was
Okay.
called Greater Boston Gypso, and they played after us, and they did like Respighi with the birds
Oh,
and
no.
everything. They blew us out of the water, but it was such a
Right.
wonderful thing to hear all those
Isn't
different
it?
groups. Say that one of the biggest
Mhm.
times for me was in high school to be part of at Tanglewood, the Young
Oh,
Artists
wow.
Orchestra.
Yes,
So
yes.
that was the summers of my junior and senior years in high school, and to go from Binghamton, New York to Tanglewood, the home of the Boston Symphony, have
Mhm.
wonderful lessons with James Papotsakis, who was the second flute of the Boston Symphony for many, many years, and also the principal of the Boston Pops.
Yeah.
And to have all the different members of the orchestra coaching me in chamber music, wonderful orchestra conductors.
Mhm, mhm.
We could hear the BSO rehearsing, we heard all of their
Wow.
concerts. It was just you just totally immersed yourself in this musical life,
Yes.
and hours of practicing and hours of
Yeah,
rehearsing orchestra, chamber music, all kinds of different performances,
yeah,
master
yeah.
classes, auditions for concertos, just everything you could do for 8 weeks.
What a
And
amazing experience for a
it,
high
it
school
it was
student.
incredible. And I think
Unbelievable.
that's what really, I mean, I had all the way along just been doing more and more music,
Right.
and less of other things. But I mean, I was busy with sports things and leaders club and writing on the school newspaper,
Yeah.
different things. But definitely those last couple years in high school, I really went down the music path.
You said you could
And
do this.
and I
You
think that, and also working with Mr. Papatsakis, Mr. P, I wanted to keep going with him. So I that's when I looked into the schools that he taught at.
right. Right.
And so I applied to both New England Conservatory and Boston University. And luckily I got into both. And
It's
also
great.
at the same time, I was lucky growing up that my teacher, Georgetta Mayola,
Mhm.
was very dear friends with Thomas Neifinger, who was at that time a wonderful, wonderful flutist, but the acting flutist with the New York Woodwind Quintet. And
Okay.
they used to be in residence at the State University of New York at Binghamton.
I
So
see.
whenever he'd have time, I'd get out of school and go have a lesson with him. In fact, I remember doing some lessons with him on this Mozart G.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
You have some notes written in still from
I
those
do, I do.
lessons?
I mean, my music looks like a battlefield of how dilapidated and all these little scribblings, but it's like everybody has helped me. You know,
Yes.
I don't want to lose
I
those
love
things.
that. Oh, yeah.
So then I went to New England Conservatory. I did my bachelor's and had wonderful coaches and teachers and the other flutists that also taught there, playing in their master classes, having them coach me in chamber music.
Sure.
I mean, it was just a plethora of riches.
You mentioned the Mozart Flute Concerto. We're going to be
Mhm.
playing this in what, 3 weeks? We're going to be doing
Yes.
this. And Mozart wrote what he wrote. This is his first. He wrote a second one as well. This is the G major Flute Concerto. So, yeah, what is your history with this piece? I mean, what is it about this piece? Why is it on? First off, also, why is it on every audition?
Yeah.
It's very important for flute players.
It's totally such a war horse,
Yeah.
but it's so, like, for a piece to survive in your being for this many years, you know what I mean? There's just so much great stuff to it.
Hmm.
And I think that it just shows so much. It's so lyrical and conversational, um,
Hmm.
expressive, but also elegant. You know, I mean, with Mozart, there's this clarity, very open, and and also with that, there are so many recordings,
Hmm.
and there are so many people that you've heard play it in master classes. You know, you go to take an orchestral flute audition and everybody's playing that. I mean, this piece can haunt you a little
Yeah.
bit with all the baggage with all that too. I have to say that's a little part of the challenge of it, is that it's not something that everyone doesn't know really well.
Right.
You know, that you've got this your own sort of personal history with this piece.
And the way he brings in the orchestra too. There's some great little orchestral interludes, and it's
Yes.
not just accompaniment. There's a lot of give and take.
Yes, yes. In fact, it's very nice. I think the two flutes that'll be in the orchestra are dear friends and
Good.
colleagues of mine, and we
Good.
all studied with Mr. P.
Oh, wow.
So it's
Pretty
really nice.
special. Yeah.
It's nice to have my friends with me.
If you had to say though, the technical and musical challenges of this work, you mentioned the transparency, I think, in getting it to sound clean.
Mhm.
Um,
And also just that I want to be, I want to bring out all the music that's in there. I definitely want to
yeah.
be fully expressive, but I also need to stay elegant or keep more the whole line about it. And there's sort of like different schools of thought about the tempos,
Yes.
because if you go a little more stately, a little bit slower, there's more room to do everything, but you have to breathe more often. And if you do it more in a swinging feeling in two,
Yeah.
it's more effervescent, but it you don't get all of the smelling the flowers.
Yeah. Any favorite recordings of?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to listen to several different ones, and I know I always love Paula Robeson. I mean, she's just so dear to my heart,
Yeah.
and so expressive. And I mean, we're all our own person, you know what I mean? So I do it a little differently than that, but I just love the joy in her playing, and um, just how operatic she
Yeah.
approaches all of the Mozart concertos.
Glad
Um,
that's a good word to mention, operatic, because
yeah.
Mozart was such a lyrical composer in terms. He always made the instruments sing. That's a great
Mhm,
word. Yeah, operatic.
mhm.
Yep.
Yep. And I know in one of her master classes about this, she was reciting some of Mozart's letters. And
Yes.
there was this one place where he was very sick and he was in his cold apartment, or he was maybe not at home, but in some place, freezing, sick, didn't have any money to be able to pay the rent. He's writing his wife, you know, I'm have no
Yeah.
money to do this,
Yeah.
you know, feeling desolate and everything. And then all of a sudden, oh, a kiss just blew in the room. You
That's
know, it's
beautiful.
like that's him. I mean, that is all of him. It's that
Hmm.
expression, but that's still so sublime, but changing on a dime.
Yes,
He couldn't write down his music fast enough. It
right.
wasn't like Beethoven where he worked and reworked it. I mean, it just
He
what's the
was
word?
such a
Oozed. It just
oh he was
zoomed out of him.
yeah, he was such a prodigy, such a virtuoso.
Yeah, yep.
And
In fact,
that
even just that
human.
opening, it starts off with something that's more march-like
Yep.
or more martial, but then lyrical, and then
Yes.
right into an acrobatic, just
Yeah.
keeping it light and frilly.
Tell me a little bit about your experience, your history with this orchestra. You're a principal flute player. How long have you been principal flute of Symphony New Hampshire? Well, first of all, yeah, how did you become involved? How did you learn about this orchestra?
Okay, well, it was a long time ago, and soon out of school, other colleagues, were either members of this orchestra. At that time, it was called Nashua Symphony,
Yeah. Yep.
or they were subbing in it. And the personnel manager at that time was somebody that was older than me at New England Conservatory, but we knew of each other, and she approached me for subbing.
Okay.
And so I first came in subbing on piccolo, and I remember doing some really cool concerts with that. And then as the years went on, subbing as second, subbing as principal a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then when an opening came up, I think it was like May 91, I want to
Okay.
say.
Okay.
Um, and I took the audition and I got it, and I was happy to get it.
That's so
Um,
neat. Yeah.
and it's hard to think back. I know when you think about special concerts and artistic
Sure.
highlights,
Sure. Sure. Sure.
it's like I go back so far with this, that
Right. You've seen it. You've seen it grow. You've seen just
so much.
there's still personnel who've been in the orchestra since when you joined, of course. You've
Mhm,
seen some
mhm.
new blood come into the orchestra. So yeah, you've seen all these changes.
It's
It must be
it's been
awesome.
wonderful, and I feel like we've all been growing up together.
What is important to you about Symphony New Hampshire? What do you want people who have never been to a concert, to one of our concerts? What do you want them to know?
I feel like the people that are the members of the orchestra,
Yeah.
and especially the wind players,
Mm.
we've all been playing together for as many years as possible, and that everybody there really cares. We're committed to trying to grow this orchestra together,
Yeah.
and so we make this a priority
Yes.
at times to all be there. And so I feel like, and also it's not like we have tons of money to do too many rehearsals. And
Right.
so every rehearsal really counts.
Yeah.
And we just all concentrate our efforts together and try to make a great expression.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know right from when your audition with us was, I
Uh-huh.
was very taken with how you worked with us and all the wonderful musical things that you helped
Thank
to make happen,
you.
and how much you were a conductor of all those things.
Yeah,
I remember your Beethoven 5
yeah, that's right. Yep.
concert really well. I think
Yep.
maybe we did
We
was
did
the
that.
foray on that concert also?
Yeah, we opened with the foray. Yes.
Yeah, yep,
Yep.
and I just remember with each piece, it's like you had a couple of main points to
Hmm.
bring that piece to life. And also that your conducting told the story
Thank you.
all the time. I mean,
Thank you.
it was easy to be with you and to want to do those things.
But if you had to choose, let's say, I don't know, two or three of your favorite composers or works, what
Mhm.
would you say?
Well, and part of that is about memorable concerts we've done and things too. I
Sure, of
have to
course. Yeah,
say,
and that could be part of that. Yeah.
I have to say Dvorak really
Okay.
speaks to me, especially we've done Dvorak 8 a couple
Yep.
times. I know we did it last year together, and also Dvorak 9, The New World,
Hmm.
and also with Beethoven 5th. We did Beethoven 3rd a little while ago. That it just is so satisfying to play those pieces. And Beethoven 9.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yep. And
Did you do that?
ideally, it would have been great to have more rehearsal time, but I still think it's like the work is so great that you just love it.
Yeah, those are great.
Um, and Appalachian Spring, Copeland,
We're gonna do that
uh,
again later this season.
Debussy,
Hmm.
Bartok. I love Bach. We've done a couple times over the years, Brandenburg 2.
Yes.
And that's
Great
been,
trumpet excerpt.
yeah, that's been really cool to do. A long time ago, I did the first movement of the Mozart Flute and Harp Concerto.
Oh, great
Um,
piece. Yes.
yeah, yeah, and I love that. And then also a few years ago, the Rodrigo Concerto for the Gentilhomme, the
Yes.
Concerto for the Gentleman. It
Hmm.
was transcribed by Galway.
Oh, I didn't realize
It's to make many of the things that the guitar was doing, the flute does.
that. Interesting.
And it's a wonderful suite of dances. And that was really cool. And I had never heard that piece before.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your well, what do you enjoy about teaching, your maybe your philosophy on teaching, something that's really enjoyable, because I know it's a lot different from performing every other week with orchestras. It's a different kind of mindset.
Mhm, mhm.
Anything that
I've always loved teaching. Um, it's you have a nice one-on-one relationship with someone, and I know when I value so much all the lessons I've had throughout my life, and it's almost like the mother bird taking the student under their wing to teach them things. And I very much have that feeling from all of my great teachers.
Mhm, mhm.
And I try to pass that on. I mean, I
Sure.
feel like I've been lucky to have wonderful tutelage and put together my own things with it too. And I work very hard to try to give that to someone, especially if they want it, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
And to see them get excited about it, to see them be able to do something that they couldn't do a second ago, um, to see them get more inspired and more engaged in it, to see them love the music in it, to see them open up and sing out more.
yeah, yeah.
Those are real priorities when I teach. I was maybe still in college and just out of it. I taught at a music camp that was up in Maine on
Oh,
this
okay.
wonderful little Panther Pond. I spent 3 summers there, and I just had wonderful students. Many of them wanted 2 lessons a week, just to get as much as they could during those 6 weeks.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
it just got me off to a great start about teaching,
That's wonderful.
about
Yeah,
that you have this whole little baseball team with you, you know what I mean? And we're all
absolutely,
working
yeah.
on it together. And I know Thomas Kneifinger, wonderful, wonderful flutist and teacher, so influential. I know in the preface of his book, he said, "May I always be one of the students."
Oh,
And
wow.
I love that.
Tell me about New Hampshire. I mean, what do you enjoy about the state of New Hampshire?
Yeah, I think I've had wonderful summers of being up in New Hampshire a lot. For many years, I played at Monadnock.
Oh,
And
yes,
so I
yes.
would make
Yeah.
sure to try to stay up there. I mean, it was wonderful to do the chamber music, to do the operas,
Uh,
but what made it the best is when you could just live up there while you were doing it. And hiking up Mount Shikora and Mount Monadnock and other ones farther up, and
yeah.
playing right near at Squam Lake,
Mm,
we're on Golden Pond.
that's
I
right.
played
Yes.
some weddings right there. And I remember it was out on this porched, 3-season porch or whatever, playing Mozart flute quartets. And someone said, with the lake there so still at night, that the sound went all across the
Mm.
lake, that it just like a skipping stone, just
That's so
sailed right across. And I
wow.
mean, New Hampshire is loaded with beautiful nature, and
Yes.
there's a lot of space. Things aren't too crowded, and I really enjoy Nashua. as a city. I mean, there's several restaurants I like a lot,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and our regular place at Elm, has become our stomping ground. So, and the audience seems very appreciative. The board is totally helpful and with
Yeah.
us,
Hmm.
and they've been so generous to help us through these pandemic hard times.
Yeah, they really have.
It's
Yes,
wonderful.
yes. Yeah, no, I agree. And you're right. New Hampshire, it's a beautiful state and so many great venues. I mean,
Mhm.
back in October, we played in Londonderry at a barn. And this barn at the Historical Society was just gorgeous. I mean, people
Wow.
spread out, they brought their chairs, they had apple cider stands. The brass quintet was really they were positioned right in front of this barn. And it
Mm.
made for just a delightful evening. This summer, we're talking about doing a few Pops concerts, maybe at Greeley and Holcomb Stadium, which is the baseball field.
Yes, yes, we did do a concert once there, and it was a smash. It
Yeah,
was a whole bunch of John Williams and,
nice.
wonderful pops things, movie things,
Hmm.
and it was, I think, many people that wouldn't necessarily go to a Symphony New Hampshire concert. So I think that was great to,
Yeah. Yeah. And then,
bring in many
these
more
other
people.
cities, even like
Mhm.
Manchester and Concord, and maybe even further north, looking at Portsmouth, for example,
Mhm.
there's some great venues up there too.
Yes, yes, I remember, I think, if it was a church or some center there in Portsmouth, and definitely playing in Manchester and, Concord.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Concord's great.
all those places, and Peterborough.
Peterborough. Yeah.
Yes, their hall there. I love it when we take our mission on the road. We're like, troubadours.
Yeah. When you're not playing music, um, what do you enjoy doing? What are some of your hobbies?
Um, hmm, well, I love desserts.
Me too.
So I think, like, when I have all of a sudden some free time, like to make some really good brownies and
Mm,
watch a good movie,
mhm.
that's I really like that.
I love that too. Oh, that sounds
Yeah,
amazing.
like
Uh,
when there'd be a snow day or
oh
something, just
yeah, you
to
bundle up, you get
make
the
some
fire
cake, make some
going.
brownies, get a good movie going. That's a lot of fun.
Sounds like a great
And
quarantine
I,
activity.
I love to do things outdoors. So I toured the United States and also Mexico with the Star Wars in Concert
What?
tour, and
Oh,
it was a gas.
cool. Oh, cool.
I played piccolo on this, so
Yeah.
I had all sorts of screech parts. But I mean, every night, everybody was just like going for broke,
Yeah,
and
right.
we had this mission to do, and we were bringing it to everywhere.
That's
It was
that's so
down through
neat.
all the hot states, down south through all there, and down into Mexico,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
Monterrey, and also Mexico City.
How neat.
It was wonderful.
What an
Uh,
experience. Yes.
they took sort of like the best pieces from all six different movies,
Hmm.
and had this huge screen that was showing them while we did all the different scenes. It worked great.
One of my favorite conducting memories was conducting a children's concert or an education concert with a lightsaber, and the audience
Oh
went nuts.
yeah.
And I even did it during a Pops concert. Audiences it was like a rock concert. They just cheered like crazy, and it was so fun to see that. I'll have to do that
Oh,
again when we do
totally.
Star Wars.
That would be great. We have two wonderful dogs, and I love them, love them.
Aw. What kind
And
of yeah, what kind of dogs do you have?
well, Knuckles is he's a mixture of several things, but partly Whippet and partly Pit Bull.
Oh wow,
And
interesting.
he also is that Plot Hound, is in there too. So he's got that brindle color,
Mhm.
and he's a very feisty, kind of neurotic dog, but also he's been going blind. So that's made him much more paranoid,
Mhm. Mhm.
and not sure what's going on.
Mhm.
But he's the sweetest. He just loves to give
Oh,
kisses. We got him from a, what do you call it, a rescue
yep.
place. And
Yep.
even then, they said he loves to give kisses, and he really does. So he
So
is just
cute.
so sweet and wants to just cuddle right up next to you. And then good old Spud is a couple of years younger than him, and he's a black German Shepherd with brown markings, and he also is combined with being Alaskan Malamute.
He must be a big boy.
He is. He's about 95 pounds,
Wow.
and he's has a bushier coat
Per
than what a German Shepherd would because of the Malamute.
Malamute. Yeah, those
And
both beautiful breeds.
he loves to run out. We have a lot of woods around us, and if he sees a deer, he instantly takes off and goes to the.
We have a little guy. It's a very odd breed name. A lot of people don't know this breed. It's called a Caton de Tulier.
Oh
So it's
wow!
he's a great dog. He's 11 pounds. We travel everywhere with him. He loves going on hikes, which is kind of funny because he's this little white fluffy dog. He's a great dog. Oh my!
There he is! Oh!
How did this happen?
He said, "I heard you call me." What a
He's
sweet.
10 pounds of fluff, or 11 pounds because of quarantine.
Totally.
So he'll
Now,
have to meet your dogs. Although
when
he
you
might bark.
go when you go hiking, does he go in a backpack or does he walk on the ground?
He actually walks. He's
Good.
leading the way. He is leading the way, and he gets in his little hunter pose. He lifts his left leg up,
Yep.
and he says, what's going on?" When we picked him up from the breeder, his name was Hunter because he loved getting sticks and collecting sticks and
Oh,
different things on the ground. He was a real hunter, and it didn't stick, but in personality, he's still a hunter. So
sure. Oh, he's so sweet.
yeah,
We should have a
he's a very
rehearsal where
sweet dog.
everybody brings their dogs to the rehearsal.
I think so. I think we should. Well, I was going to say, when we do the Greeley Park concert, you should bring your dogs
Yeah,
this summer if you can.
maybe, maybe.
You really should. I was saying, that would be such a hit with our audiences. Some sort of concert where people can actually bring their dogs, and we could play music maybe that relates to animals or
That's a great
carnival
idea.
of animals. So I'm going to talk to the team and see what we can do.
Yeah, that would be a riot.
So great speaking to you today. I'm looking forward in a couple of weeks to doing the Mozart Flute Concerto with you, and we have a lot to look forward to.
Me too. Thank you very much. It's always great to talk with you.